Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Super Lunch Roast Podcast, episode number 87. I am Brendan, and today we're going to talk about UFC Fight Night, Aldo versus Font. I will be releasing an additional video this week. I talked about it last week. I'm going to put out the review of the second season of Cobra Kai, so that'll be fun. We get to talk about that. Nate was busy today. I know he watched the main event, and he watched a couple of the fights, but he is busy, so he could not be here to go over this one. All right. Before we get started, please, if you like what I'm doing, if you like what I'm talking about, if you like UFC, if you like MMA, please subscribe, like the video, and then go back and look at some of the other ones. You know, maybe you're going back and watching some older fights, some past events. You know, the reviews are numbered. They follow all of them, and it's some of them go more into depth than others. But it's also, I found one of the things I really like doing is after I watch a UFC is I like to hear what the rest of the community is talking about. I want to hear if my opinions are validated, my opinions are totally out of left field. Maybe some opinions are I'm the first one to have them, you know. I'm sure you guys have had that before. You've said something while watching a fight and been like, oh, DC just copied what I said. So that happens. Anyway, let's go over UFC Fight Night, Aldo versus Font. And let's talk about the first fight, Aldo versus Font. It was a fun fight. Like, it wasn't bad. But here's what I'll say. So let's look at the stats first, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So you look in the first round. So we got Font here in red and Aldo in blue. 36-26, 48-23, 37-12, 10-10, and 18-15, all in favor of Rob Font. Now, there were 2 takedowns and more control time by Jose Aldo, and I don't disagree with the decision to give him the fight. I mean, it's fine. But for those coming out here and saying Jose Aldo looks as good as he ever has, no, I am not going to fight against him getting a title shot eventually. There are other fighters in the wings who deserve title shots. It needs to get done. All right, we need to have Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. We need to have TJ Dillashaw versus one of them. Like, he's calling out, Jose Aldo called out TJ Dillashaw after this, and he said, I match up really well with him. I want to fight. That's fine. There's no reason why they shouldn't fight. Except I would rather have the title be on the line. It's more dramatic. I think it's more fun. And that's what I'd rather see. Now, this fight, like I said, it was relative. Like, there was, here. Aldo, if you go back and watch some of his fights, there are a lot of times where he does grab the fence. And it's not something new. It's something he's been doing for a very long time. I'm sure he did it in his amateur career. He has incredible takedown defense as well. He does. But when that fails him, because it does eventually, right? He might be one of the hardest guys to take down in the division, one of the hardest people to take down in UFC history. But part of that is when he's backed up against the fence, he grabs it. He did it against Chad Mendes. I think he did it against Frankie Edgar. And he did it in the first round against Rob Font, in which Font lifted him up, was in the process of putting him down, and Aldo grabs the fence to stop it. And he got a warning, and that's it. No position change. You gotta put him on his back. Even if he gets up in the next 2 seconds, that's fine. You gotta give him the position or take a point. Like, I'm so sick of this. It's disgusting to see. I can't believe that it's remotely allowed. There was an insane amount of fence grabs during this event, and it's unacceptable. It just is. Like, there's no reason for it. I understand that human beings have a tendency to reach out when their balance is being taken away from them, and one of the things that can happen is they reach out and grab the fence. Fine. One of the natural tendencies of human beings is to scramble and throw your limbs around. You learn how not to do that, don't you? You learn how not to gouge people's eyes out. You learn how not to kick people in the cup. You learn how not to kick them when they're down. But all these things happen at varying degrees of frequency. I don't see change coming anytime soon. I've seen a few refs, I would say, take it in their own hands, but it's not really what's going on. What's going on is a few refs are following the letter of the law, and then they get a lot of pushback because other refs aren't doing that. So they're like, oh, well, you got to be consistent. And I agree with that. I would rather see consistency than randomness when it came to referees applying the rules. With that being said, they need to be stricter. There's no two ways about it. I'm going to keep saying it. It might be the first thing I say during every one of these, but look why I'm saying it. Go back and watch that fight. Go watch a fight and see what happens. First takedown. It should have been a takedown. First takedown. Oh, no, sorry. He got put down, got back up, was about to get thrown down to the ground again, and grabs the fence. I wouldn't be bringing it up if it didn't happen. I wouldn't be bringing it up if it didn't matter. Eye pokes matter. Groin shots matter. Low blows. No, not low. Oh, ow. Back of the head shots matter. Knees to a ground opponent. Like, all of these things matter. Grabbing the top of the fence matters. There's no two ways about it. All of those things matter. All of those things change the outcome of the fight, and it needs to be dealt with properly. Giving people warnings is not effective. It's not, because it's still happening. Fining them, I don't think is right. I don't want to take money away from fighters. No, take points. You make it about the points in the fight. We know how valuable they are because they don't give 10-7s. They don't give 10-6s. It's 10-9s for the most part. We'll see a 10-8 every so often, but it's 10-9s. Meaning if you take a point, that's a third. It would be a quarter of the points that you could lose during a 3-round fight. And Aldo didn't look that great to me. Aldo caught Font a few times, and he looked better than Font. The right guy got the win here. I'm not here to say Aldo is washed. I'm not here to say Aldo doesn't belong in there with the best in the division. Absolutely he does. One, it's about the rule violations. I can't stand it. I'm so done with it. Seeing it every single week. Watching fighters get away with cheating. Just saying it's just cheating now. You're just cheating. You know the rules. He's been fighting for 100 years. It's just cheating. He knows damn well what he's doing. It's like throwing shots at the back of the head. You know you get a free one or two. Just keep throwing them. When they get a warning, that's when you stop. Do you understand how fucking stupid that is? It'd be in basketball. Someone drives to the lane, and I just freaking right cross. Just hit him right on the jaw and knock him the fuck out as he's driving to the lane. Flagrant, technical, whatever you want to call it. It's harsh a punishment. You can get banned for games, but it's immediately enforced. There's no two ways. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're done. They're given the free throws. You're given, time away from the game. You could be fined for those things. There's no leeway there. It's a rule. Now, there's rules where, there is some subjectivity involved. What constitutes a foul? How much contact is too much contact? Were you actually in the path? Did you set the feet? Were you settled in your position? in that spot? Was it actually a charging? Do you know what I mean? There's subjectivity in those things. But when it does occur, when a charging foul occurs, they're not like, hey, watch that. No more of that. And when another guy does it, hey, I told the other guy, watch that. You be careful now. No. They're like, hey, foul. The other team gets a ball. Oh, he was driving in to score, and you slapped him on the wrist. You took away a possible 2 points. We don't know for sure, but that's why the rule exists. So he gets to go to the line and take 2 uncontested shots. That's what we need. That's what we need. Do you understand how stupid that would be if during a game, not just how you apply the rule, right? Because we all know that, like I said, there is subjectivity in applying rules in sport, especially when you're dealing with other human beings on something that isn't precise. Okay? Stepping out of bounds, we know the exact line where the out of bounds is. We know where your foot is. If they cross each other, that's out of bounds. Any sport, pick one, and we have the technology now to monitor those things. Holding in football, that's a thing that has a lot of subjectivity because it's a common saying. I played football for a few years. It's a common saying. There's holding on every play. It's whether or not you get caught. Right. Now, that being said, will there be rule violations that don't get seen? Of course. Will there be times that people do things that we all think should be considered a foul and they're not charged with a foul? Absolutely, that's going to happen. Absolutely. I'm not saying a referee is going to be perfect. I'm not saying a referee is going to see everything. I'm not saying we have the technology or the specific rule set to govern these fighters in such a way that there could be 100% objectivity when it came to doling out fouls, right? Not the penalty for the foul, but the act of noticing a foul and saying that a foul has occurred, right? There's no way for 100%. People fake stuff all the time. We see people get punched in the eye and then they grab it, or vice versa. We see someone get poked in the eye, but the referee thought it was a punch, so they're allowed to continue. Humans are going to miss things. It's going to happen, and we have replay for those things that's a whole different discussion. But in any of those sports, once the foul has been determined, there's a penalty every single time. Okay? There's a penalty immediately. Now you could say, well, in boxing, they give them warnings all the time because there's a lot of leeway. What exactly is a low shot because of where they wear their shorts? Where was that actually behind the ear? Like, was just punch? I understand that. There's 10 rounds in a boxing match. If you lose a point, whether it's right or wrong, and it can still affect the decision. Absolutely. And people make mistakes. But I would argue, again, I'm not as versed in boxing history, nor do I watch boxing nearly as much as I watch MMA. Therefore, I'm not going to sit here and try to say that rule needs to be changed in boxing. But as far as MMA goes, there are 3 to 5 rounds. Chances are the most amount of points you are going to lose during the amount of points that you will lose during the match maxes out at 5. Normally, right? I said every so often you'll have a 10-8 round, so maybe you lose 6 points, 7 points if there's 2 10-8s. But you understand, if you're an MMA fan, that's really rare. For how many fights we see and how many rounds we watch, how many of them are 10-8s? So few. So in a 3-round fight, you lose a point. That's a big deal. $15-yard penalty. That could be the difference between a field goal, which could win the game, and having to throw a Hail Mary. In basketball, last 2 seconds of a game, It's tied, or you're down by 1. And now you have 2 free throws because you drove to the lane and got fouled. Or you shot a 3 and made it, and you got fouled in the process. We're talking about the same thing here. They can have large effects on every game that they're involved in. And they should, and they're supposed to. The difference is, in MMA, you have almost 100% control of everything you're doing in there. It's just you and one other guy. Accidents can happen, absolutely. We saw it with Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez when he actually threw a punch and he got hit on the wrist, and his thumb. No, that was a different one. Max Holloway he had a closed fist, and the thumb still went into Yair's eye. Right? What are you supposed to do with that? There's nothing wrong with what he did. He followed all the rules, and a foul had occurred. So that's a really weird one that we can chalk up to a failure in the equipment, and we've talked about that before. All right, I've talked about this too long. Anyway, we need to start taking points. There's no more leeway here. It's got to stop. It's got to stop sometime. Please, for the love of God, somebody step in there and start taking points from fighters. Make them fight fair. You've done all the drug testing, which, that's a whole other can of worms. You make them make weight. Make them follow the fucking rules. Where does Aldo go from here? He's probably going to trade places with Rob Font. In fact, I bet you he jumps Corey Sandhagen after this. I bet you he goes to number 3. Corey Sandhagen versus Jose Aldo is a banger. I would love to see that. I don't know if Sandhagen wants to do that right now. Maybe have him take on someone else further down the list. But as far as I'm concerned, Aldo's a real contender here. Aldo deserves a title shot. Doesn't mean he deserves the next one, because that's Peter Yan. That's just what it is. Sterling's injury, how very unfortunate, and all the things that are going on. The way he hasn't been able to fight has caused a really bad logjam in this division. And then TJ coming back and having that amazing performance against Corey Sandhagen on one leg essentially, and getting the nod. Deserves he was the champ before he left. Yeah, he broke the rules, and he was punished for that. So he came back, won a fight against the number 1 or number 2 contender in the world. He deserves a title shot too. You understand the difference between deserving a title shot and deserving the next title shot, right? If you deserve the next title shot, if we both deserve a title shot, but you had fought at a similar time as the champion, and your rest and camp times line up better with the champion going forward, and I also deserve a title shot, but that doesn't line up well, you understand the difference, right? More than one person can deserve a title shot. Now, based off all of the history and the rules and all those other things, obviously Peter Yan, he has an interim belt. So I would put Aldo either against Sandhagen, maybe throw Merab in there. Merab's coming off a win. I think that's an interesting fight. I don't think it's out of the question either. TJ's probably going to wait for the title. If Aldo wants to fight again, Merab's right there. I think that's a banger too. This is a really good fight. It's a great division, by the way. All right, Fiziev versus Brad Riddell. So Fiziev pretty much took the center of the octagon. The striking went back and forth. Pretty even. The live odds were even. Sorry, the live numbers were even. Yeah. I'm not crazy. So 21-19 in favor of Brad, but Fiziev had the center of the octagon, so I'd probably give it to Fiziev. Round 2, again, very close, but Fiziev seemed to do a little bit more. Brad did land some big shots, though, so I could see it going either way. Those first 2 rounds were very close, maybe 1-1. And then in the third round, there's a moment where Brad gets backed up against the cage like he had been, and Fiziev throws a spinning roundhouse, and catches Brad right on the chin with his heel. Dude, a spinning heel kick, not a roundhouse, sorry. A spinning heel kick. Brad just got stunned, and he's still standing, but he's clearly dazed and out of it. Then Fiziev moves in. Brad seems to have the wherewithal to dive for a takedown, and while he's diving for the takedown, Herb is already jumping in. Horrible stoppage. Absolutely terrible. This is not a good stoppage. You can't convince me that was a good stoppage. The announcer saying, "Oh, that looked really bad," and "Oh, he looked like he was out of it," and "Oh man, he got hit really hard." Just because someone gets hit hard and it looks scary doesn't mean that the fight is over, especially when that fighter is diving for a takedown. Does Brad probably get finished? Yeah. Does Fiziev probably land like 3 or 4 more shots? Yeah. But we can't keep doing this on probablys. That's not how MMA works. That's not how sports work. If that's how it worked, we would just go off statistics and we would never actually do the event. Like, well, Jose Aldo beat all these guys, and Jose Aldo does this better, and, Rob Font does all these things better. Let's put this in let's figure this out, put it in the algorithm. Oh, well, Aldo should win, so we don't need to do it. That's what you're doing when you stop a fight early. You're saying that you're pretty sure you know what's happening next. Not that he's not defending himself, that you know that he's not going to defend himself when more punches come his way. Because he is defending himself. He's doing an intelligent martial art move by going for a takedown. Now, I have called it City Panic Wrestle before, because they do have a habit of doing that when they get rocked, but everybody does. I don't know. I seem to notice it more out of Dan Hooker, Riddell, Kai Kara France, those guys. The fight was very close. It was a great fight, too. Very technical. I liked it a lot. Fiziev looked like the better fighter, and I only watched it once because there's no reason for me to score it. I'd give him the first round and probably the second one, too. So he was already up. And unless Riddell gets a finish, he was going to win that fight anyway. That doesn't mean... That's another thing. It's like, if someone gets dominated for 2 rounds, can you just go and stop it because, I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen in the third? No, that's ridiculous, right? We both know that that's ridiculous. We all know that that's ridiculous. But that's what you've done, effectively. When you stop a fight because something looked like he got hit really hard and it looked scary. He didn't go out like Terry Edom, didn't fall face first, didn't fall on his back. I understand this wasn't in the last second, so this isn't as bad as Overeem versus Rosenstruck. What a shit show that was. I know I mentioned that a lot, but that changed the trajectory of Rosenstruck's career tremendously. He got dominated for 47 minutes. No, sorry. I'm stupid. 24 and a half minutes he was dominated. And he ends up getting the finish. There was 10 seconds left. He wasn't getting the finish. Or he was. Who knows? We don't know because they stopped the fight too early. Whatever. Fiziv's a real deal. Like, he's good, man. Fiziv is very, very good. And Riddell's also very good. So the fact that, it was a great fight. I hate when that happens. I hate when we end like that. Ugh. Jamal Hill versus Jimmy Crute. Don't need to look up the stats for that one. Crute just holding his head straight up high, and Hill catches him and knocks him out. Jamal Hill looking good recently. Oh, no. No, he didn't. Why were they showing the Ovince St. Preux one? His last loss was to Paul Craig in June of this year. His win over OSP was a good one. Okay. He's back on track. Let's put it that way. Sorry, I misspoke. All right, this is my fight of the night. My favorite fight of the night, but it's for personal reasons. It's because I love the dude. Clay Guida getting the win over Leonardo Santos. Ooh, okay. So first of all, Santos had crazy range, so much more range, and Guida was having a real problem moving in on there. Santos was unloading to the body for 2 straight minutes. He landed a big body shot. Guida huddled over in pain, doubled over in pain. Santos just unloaded. He was punching to the body, punching to the head. Guess what? If you're punching to the head and you look up at the referee, that's your fault. Why are you looking at him? You trying to bait him in to come look? And good on Keith Peterson for not stopping the fight, by the way. Because he was not punching. He did land a few punches to the head, obviously. Right? If you want to look at these striking totals, 39-8 in the first round. He landed a ton of those to the body. And then his ones to the head weren't clean, so it didn't knock him out for like a flash knockout or do anything like that. He was just hurting him to the body, and he knocked him down a couple times. But if you're hitting to the body and they don't just curl up and stop and they keep fighting back, it's on you, man. Finish the fucking fight. It's on you. I don't feel bad. And yes, I'm a huge Clay Guida fan, so I know this taints my view of this, but I will also say that it is your fault in there if you look up at the referee and you want him to... you finish it. You're not doing it. He would have stopped it if you were already. And they were talking about, Keith Peterson could have stopped that fight. I mean, he could have. He shouldn't have, though, and I'm glad he didn't. Because he was going for takedowns. He was moving, grabbing the leg, going for takedowns, and adjusting. And with 1 minute left in the round, Santos is exhausted because he punched himself out. And Guida picks him up and slams him down. And he's on top for the last minute of the first round. Comes out in the second round. More of the same. He caught him with a few good shots. Gets on top of him. Santos is a world-class grappler, a champion grappler. And Guida gets out there and gets him in a rear naked choke. Didn't even have both hooks in. Doesn't matter. Got him in a rear naked. Awesome win. So fucking cool that Guida is still doing. Look at these. I understand he's got a lot of losses. I get that. So, yeah, he lost to Charles Oliveira by guillotine. Okay. He's the champ now. Beats PJ Penn. We don't want to talk about that one. This is the Jim Miller, who, in his own rights, is having, a very good senior year of his fighting career. Bobby Green, Bobby Green, phenomenal fighter. Beats Michael Johnson. Loses a pretty close fight. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and watch that one, to Mark Madsen. And then gets this win. I said this before about his last win over Michael Johnson, I think, and maybe even during the loss. I don't know if I don't think his goals are to challenge for the title again. Maybe did he say that? I don't think he should. I don't think that's in the cards. I could be super wrong about this one too. I mean, I was wrong about Glover Teixeira. That being said, that's light heavyweight. It's a little different. Power means more up there. And Clay Guida's not a power puncher. It's just, dude, it's so cool to see Clay Guida, 40 years old, damn near 40 years old, winning a fight. It's just, dude, he's been fighting in the UFC. Okay, well, he was in the Strikeforce first. Whatever. First fight and the WC back in 2006. 15 years. 15 years just in the UFC. Also, he had 4 fights in 2006. Then 4 in 2007. He's been so active. Dude, he's just... Oh, yeah, I remember that in 2011 when he beat Anthony Pettis. He's really good. He's an underrated fighter because he never won a title. And yeah, when it came to winning, not the big fights, but against the hardest opponents, he has come out on the wrong end of those fights. He's one of those gritty guys who just doesn't go away either in a fight, obviously with his he has insane cardio. Doesn't go away career-wise either. He just keeps grinding, keeps moving forward. There's something to be said for that. There really is. You know, a meteoric rise to the top and keeping your title for many years is obviously, you know, a GSP, Anderson Silva type of deal, although his wasn't meteoric really because he fought for a while before he got to the UFC. You know, now we're talking about Usman. These guys who do those things, obviously they should get the respect. They deserve it. They're doing amazing things in their divisions. Jose Aldo winning for so long. But these guys who just, not even coming up second, like a Joseph Benavidez, you know, always coming in second. Is another good fighter. Oh, Daniel Cormier, always coming in second with John Jones. We all remember that. Well, Daniel DC because he did become champ twice, so a little different. It's just, it's a different thing with these guys. He's not even a journeyman fighter. Because he can, on any given night, challenge some of the best in the division, or could, you know, back in the day, and get a win. It's just, it's something to be commended. It's very cool. It's as inspiring to me to work that hard for something you love for essentially your entire adult life. You know, doing it when he was 25 years old in the UFC. Your entire, you know, adult life so far has been grinding and trying to be the best. And at some point, you have to know that you're not, and you still keep grinding anyway. It's something else. I love it. Clay Guida, great win. I'm so excited. Love watching him fight. I don't think he's out of it yet. I think he can still have a lot of fun fights, and I think he's a really good challenge for some of the newer fighters coming up. Chris Curtis versus Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen didn't look like he took it serious. He was in there farting around and got caught. And Chris Curtis ended up getting the TKO, so stupid. Brendan Allen looked like the cleaner fighter, looked like the better fighter, just like Hawes against Curtis last time. Although Hawes was sloppier, and he also was trying, so I don't think Hawes is a better fighter than Allen. And Allen, this really sucks too because Allen, his only loss before this was to Sean Strickland, and after this win, he's been trying to challenge Sean. He's done a really good job. He beat Kevin Holland, Tom Breeze, Kyle Dawkins, who's on his own win streak and surging, Carl Roberson, and Punahele Soriano. So it sucks to have another setback like this, but congratulations to Chris Curtis. Dude just goes out there and does the damn thing. You know, it's not always the prettiest. He doesn't have the cleanest technique. He just hits hard, stays in there. He's durable, doesn't quit on himself. Really cool. Alex Morono versus Mickey Gall. Oh, boy. This one was interesting. So, Mickey, we all remember, claim to fame was being CM Punk's first MMA fight in the UFC. Since then, he's had a up and down career. Alex Morono gets the win here. Rightly so. I mean, he was better. Looked good on the feet. Looked decent on the ground. Though there wasn't a lot on the ground, but wait, was there at all fighting on the ground now that I think about it? There's just scrambles, or was it all on the feet? Mainly the fight was contested on the feet anyway. Morono was clearly a better striker. Mickey Gall wasn't going for takedowns. Oh yeah, look at that. He went for one takedown. I do remember that in the third round. Oh, look at that. Sal D'Amato and Adelaide Bird on the same fight. Oh, that's good. Anyway. Here's what's Alex Morono. Just he gets it done when he constantly looking better. It's a really tough dude. What were his losses? To Anthony Pettis. Yeah, I remember that one. And getting knocked out by Chaos Williams, which that's all that guy does. You know, if he doesn't knock you out, you have a boring fight with him. He's beaten a lot of good fighters. Josh Berkman, Max Griffin, Donald Cerrone. This was a real step down in competition as far as I'm concerned. And let's talk about Mickey Gall. Gall looked better on his feet than he has in the past. He looked better than he did in his last fight. I think he has improved tremendously in the striking arena. Completely upgraded his striking ability since he entered the UFC, since we've seen him fight professionally. It's just, I don't know. It seems like he just doesn't put it together when he's in there. His grappling, we know his grappling's good. We know he's a flexible dude. He's strong enough to when he needs it. His cardio has been a problem, but we didn't really get to see. I don't know if he looked super fresh in the third round. Oh, also, Morono grabbed the fence for 10 seconds in the first round. Just held on to it. And he got warned like 2 or 3 times while he was doing it. Like, take your hand out of the fence. Take your hand out of the fence. Take your hand out of the fence. Don't pull. But he didn't pull his hand out. So stupid. I wouldn't close the door on Mickey Gall's career as of yet. But trading wins and losses like this, you know, losing to Randy Brown, losing Diego Sanchez, beating this guy. Losing to Mike Perry, beating Jordan Williams. Losing at Alex Morono. So I don't think he gets cut. I don't know how many fights he has left on his contract, but this guy also basically grew up in the UFC. You know, we're watching almost his entire professional career in the UFC. And he's 7-4. So he's not a bad fighter. It's just the fights that we normally see these guys take when they're coming in at 10-1 or 15-0, 11-0, 7-0. A lot of fighters that come in like that, and then you look at their career in the UFC, and at the end they're 15-4. Yeah, that's more impressive than 7-4, but those 4 losses are the same 4 losses that Mickey Gall had. Do you understand? Like, there's no there is a way to calculate it with strength of schedule, but looking back, when you see these guys' careers and you just see that number 7-4, right? Like, let's say he keeps doing this for a while and he ends up being, 15-10, right? Wins a couple, loses one, wins one, loses one, right? And he goes 15-10. Most people would think that's a pretty shit career. It's nothing outstanding, nothing out of the ordinary. Doesn't stand out on paper, doesn't look great on Wikipedia. But all 10 of those losses are in the UFC. And all, 14, 13 of those wins are also in the UFC. So he's better than 500 in the UFC. And that's where he learned how to fight. So not a stellar career, but that's as journeyman as it gets. I mean, we don't have to talk about other fighters. I was going to talk about Jeremy Stephens, but that was it for the main card. What happened? Duško Todorovic getting the win against Maki Pitolo. Ended up getting on his back and getting a TKO in the first round. He's still got a problem. This Todorovic, dude, he is skilled. He's quick. He's flexible. I want to say other nice things, but what I'm about to say for the bad side might contradict those things. Dude holds his head up, straight up in the air, and he dodges punches by doing this. You can get away with that against certain fighters at certain levels. Even in the UFC, you can get away with that. There's fighters who do that all the time. But we've also seen that either he's not good enough to do that, or B, the fighters just know he's going to do that, so they adjust to it. He's got to change something on his defense. His offense looks good. He's okay on the ground. He's a good fighter. I don't know if I'm stumbling over legit or good or decent. Good fighter. And if he gets his shit together, he could be a great fighter. I've seen him fight 4 or 5 times now. One, two, three, four. Yeah, 4 fights in the UFC, not including the Dana White Contender Series. Daquan Townsend, Pune Haley Soriano, he lost to Gregory Rodriguez, and then gets a win against Maki Pitolo. So, in all 4 of those fights, I've seen the exact same problem. The exact same problem. Dude, he's just there to be hit. You can't do that. It's not a recipe for a long career. It's not a recipe for a healthy brain later in life. It's not a recipe for being a champion level fighter, or having a championship career. It's just not. Hair. Manel Kopp getting the knockout win. Pretty interesting the way he lands a big shot. It's a big right hand. And Zalgis Zumagulov, who's holding his own in there. Kopp was able to get it done. He had the win against Odie Osborne with the flying knee in August, and now the win over Zumagulov via like a shitload of punches. So he's 2-2 in the UFC. I still wouldn't put him in there with higher. He's a younger guy. He's got all the skills. Keep bringing him up slow. Like, I know he had a lot of hype on him, but that hype was quickly subdued when he lost 2 in a row. You got build him up. His work is speaking for itself. So let's just let it do that. We don't need to put him in there with some name. We don't need to put him in there with some ranked opponent yet. Just give him time. Brian Barberina getting the win over Darian Weeks. This one was weird. Not the weirdest one, by the way. But, okay, Barberina's in the red. Barberina, 21-26, 32-49, and then 55-43. So, on the broadcast, they said he was ahead on significant strikes. See, this is the problem with those live numbers, is they're wrong a lot. Sometimes it's not significant. It has no effect on the opinion because they're accurate enough, right? Instead of saying 74-51, it said 75-50. Whatever. It's essentially the same thing. But when it flips the script and it says, oh, this guy actually had less. He had more total strikes, but the significant ones were changed. Weeks, I don't know. I had Weeks actually winning this fight. I thought he won the first 2 rounds. It was weird to see him get the nod. I would have given him, like, yeah, he was putting it on him, and he was looking for the finish in the third round, and that's to be commended, and that's fantastic, but we score round by round, and I gave Weeks the first 2 rounds. So it was unanimous, too, so that was weird. Cheyenne Valismos versus Mallory Martin. Awesome fight, by the way. You know, if you have been watching me shit on the women's bantamweight and flyweight or featherweight divisions, this is why. Because fights like this happen at strawweight. That's why. Great fight. Crisp striking. Good defense. Good aggression. Smart game plans. Now, I thought she won every round. I guess one of the judges didn't think so. She won every round in significant strikes, and, you know, Mallory didn't really do anything of significance to win a round, I don't think. So, you know, maybe it's because Valismos, you know, really mixed it up, and a lot of judges like to see head strikes. It's just cool. If we got another, you can really tell the difference when you see fighters who know how to throw a jab and a straight, and they have crisp striking, and the way they throw their punches and combos, and they land their leg kicks with force and conviction. It makes such a difference. It's a world of difference when watching fights. Here's one that had some controversy. So William Knight versus Lonzo Menofield. A little bit of controversy here. Lonzo Menofield clearly won round 1, I think. Well, no, maybe not. Well, Menofield did get rocked in the first round. He got rocked in the first round. Oh, sorry. Whoop. Flip it. Sorry, I was misremembering. Knight rocked Menofield at the end of the first round. Clearly won the first round. Second round, clearly Menofield's. Right? Way ahead on the striking. He had a lot of control time on him. But in the third round, I think the judges got this one right. DC didn't like it. DC was upset because Menofield held Knight against the cage for a long portion of the third round. 3 minutes of it, 4 minutes of it. Pick your number. It doesn't matter. A very long time. And you see that bears out in the statistics. The control time for Menofield, very little for Knight. Whatever. But this is the problem with going off of live statistics or what your eyes see. While you're watching the fight, you might not be catching everything. And I understand being a judge is hard, but I think they got it right here. I really do. When I was watching it, I initially had that same reaction that Cormier did. There's and this is one of the things that I don't like about Cormier and Bisping. They tend to bicker a lot, and it's not fun banter. It's bickering. They tend to contradict each other and argue with each other in not a fun way. And yeah, they'll laugh it off and ha ha ha. But it doesn't come across as cute or interesting or fun. Whereas I like when you have Michael Bisping and Dominic Cruz. I think they're a fun combo. And then Brennan Fitzgerald, I think they're a really fun combo. Anyway, in the third round, Knight was being held against his will against the cage, right? So, yeah, if the striking numbers were even, if the damage was even, Menofield wins that round. I broke this down a couple weeks ago. But damage, this is where someone like DC gets very upset because he comes from a wrestling background and he thinks, oh, if I wrestle you and control you, I'm winning. To a point, yes. Now, I also said, if you control someone, it just control, right? No punches are thrown. If you control someone for 4 minutes and 50 seconds of a round, actually, here's a good one. Let's say no punches are thrown at all, and you take a person down and you control them for 3 minutes, and it's a minute into the round, you get them down, and then there's a minute at the end of the round. Nobody throws a punch. Who won that round? The guy with control. It's pretty easy when you look at it like that. Now let's throw in some damage. So let's say the guy who got taken down and was controlled for 3 minutes rocked the other person. Whether it's at the beginning of the round or the end of the round does not matter. Who won that round? The person doing the takedown does not do damage. Okay, we're just talking about control here. They have control for 3 minutes. Let's up it. Let's say they have control for 4 minutes of a round, but they got rocked. And let's say they got knocked down before they got a takedown. Who wins that round? Well, unless there was a giant slam in the knockdown process, which is not what I was describing, just a regular-ass takedown, they're on top. The person with the knockdown wins that round. And a wrestler won't like that. I understand why, but you have to combine it. You have to use striking while you're down there. Because that same thing. You get rocked in the first 30 seconds of a fight, and then you manage to get a takedown 30 seconds later, and then you land some ground and pound for 4 minutes of a round. Be hard-pressed to say you didn't win that round. So you're not punishing wrestlers for getting control. You're punishing wrestlers for not doing any of the fighting, the mixed martial arts aspects. Okay? The other thing, what if they're trying to finish the fight via submission? Also counts. Changing position to look for a submission counts as plenty of offense. Damian Maia did it all the time. He didn't do any of that. It didn't land anything significant, didn't do anything. He just held him against the fence. And had he done that for the entire round, wow, good voice crack there. Had he done that for the entire round, I would agree with Daniel Cormier in this scenario. But he didn't. Knight got up, and Knight threw big haymakers, went forward, and landed a few of them. It's on you, man. It's on you. And you're rolling the dice with that kind of game plan. Maybe you'll get lucky, and one of the judges isn't going to follow the judging criteria strictly. They're not going to follow it how it's supposed to, and they're going to give you a win. Undeservingly so, I would argue. But I think they got it right in this case. I really do. I'm glad it went this way, and I hope going forward that we can have on the broadcast a more open and honest discussion about what's actually being scored, because it sounds petty when Bisping and DC are going back and forth about it because they're not articulating it in a way that's constructive. It sounds like a striker in Bisping is criticizing the fight for being boring and there's no damage being done. And then DC says, well, he was controlling him. I'm a wrestler. I know wrestling. And that's what wins. By the way, the wrestling is the best base for a mixed martial artist. Just hands down. It just is. We need to have people in there who can constructively talk about those things. I think Bisping is on the right side for the wrong reasons. But he did mention it this time. Usually he's one of those action guys. He doesn't like to see when fights are boring. He doesn't like to see when they're on the ground that much. He can appreciate it, but he doesn't like it. And he will vocalize his opinions. But this time, he said, DC, he didn't do any damage. Who was doing the damage? That's what he was mentioning. And then DC countered with well, I didn't see Knight doing any damage. He did. He might not have seen it, but it happened. The strikes were there. They were significant, and he outlanded him and did more damage in the third round. That's the first judging criteria. It's what it is, man. We need to have people who can openly talk about it. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have fighters who understand that. Like, this is not the old school UFC where you can just hold someone down and that counts as much as a jab. It counts as much as a knockdown. It doesn't. Also, high altitude slams aren't happening in the rate that they used to be. I think this was an excellent fight for scoring. I think it was an excellent fight that could be highlighted going forward if you want to teach your students about how to win a fight when there's judges doing it the right way, and how not to win a fight. Actually, I would say Alonzo probably had the best chance of winning this at any given point. He just didn't capitalize on his position and opportunity. Clearly winning the second round. Not so much so that he got a 10-8, but there's something to be said for control and wrestling and moving into dominant position. Absolutely. But you have to use it. And he just didn't. It's an excellent example of following the rules as far as the judging goes. I'm okay with it. All right. Let's go through these last two. Claudio Puelles versus Gutzmacher. Chris Gutzmacher. Yeah, it was boring because Gutzmacher is a slow fighter, doesn't do much. He's a gritty guy. And Puelles was just he out-wrestled him in the first round. And the second round was back and forth, but probably Gutzmacher's. And then in the third round, Gutzmacher was on top and then got like a knee bar. It's just really weird. It didn't seem like both fighters were in it to win it, let's say. And then Vince Morales knocking out Louis Smolka. Sucks for Smolka because this guy, he's been fighting in the UFC since 2014. And he is only 30 years old. For 7 years. He's been fighting in the UFC since he was 23. And he had some good wins back in the day. But every time he stepped up in competition, like, look, losing to Brandon Moreno. Losing to Ray Borg. Losing to Tim Elliott. See, these three losses, like, these are title contenders. Title holders. Champions. As far as Moreno goes. And Mateus Nicolau. Whatever. Then he wins a fight he should. Loses to Matt Schnell. It's like a really slow guy. Beats Ryan McDonald. Loses to Casey Kenny. Beats Jose Quinones. And loses to Vince Morales. Like, he's improved since his 4-fight skid back in 2017. But I think he just came in too young. Had too much success early. And then got thrown. I don't think Brandon Moreno was the Wolves, so I'm not going to say he was thrown to the Wolves, but Ray Borg and Tim Elliott, that's kind of shitty. I think he just came in too young. All right. Like I said, we'll talk about Cobra Kai hopefully tomorrow. All right, I watched it already. Obviously, I watched it already. We're just I got to coordinate with Nate. I got to coordinate with him so we can talk about season number 2. And then I think we are on a break for the UFC, so we've got nothing else to talk about. Maybe we'll talk about Squid Game. Good grief. I did just finish that. Really weird. A couple moments made me cry. Very strange. Very, very strange. I'll get a UFC schedule right here, and then we will get going. See. Oh, no. We have a fight. My bad. Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier. That's the one. Next weekend. Sorry. Wait, and then we have another one after that? I thought we were supposed to have oh, these are the last 2 cards. Okay, what am I talking about? We got these. Talking about practice? What are we talking about? I was wrong. Forget what I said. We got Charles Oliveira taking on Dustin Poirier. And Amanda Nunes taking on Juliana Pena. Amanda Nunes wins. I got it 90-10. I'd say 95-5. Pena could, like, again, this is one of those MMA sport things. Anything could happen, but chances are anything won't. Jeff Neal just got arrested for a DUI, which is really weird, and he's fighting against Santiago Ponzinibbio. I would put some money on Ponzinibbio unless I bet you the line is shifted. Got Kai Kara France taking on Cody Garbrandt at flyweight. This is going to be really weird. Paiva versus Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley's opened up the card against 50. Honestly, I'm rooting for Poirier just because he was never the undisputed champ, so I think that'd be interesting. It also opens up, maybe I want Oliveira to win because that way Gagey will get a shot next and we won't have to do an instant rematch. He shouldn't get an instant rematch. There's no reason Oliveira deserves an instant rematch. Josh Emmett versus Dan Ige, 2 heavy hitters. Oh, boy. Probably lean towards Emmett on that one. Dominic Cruz versus Pedro Munoz. That's a good one. I hope Cruz can get that done. Augusto Sakai versus Tai Tuivasa. Really big shots getting thrown back and forth. Bruno Silva, Jordan Wright. Don't care. Miranda Maverick. Eric, your boy, Anders taking on Andre Muniz. Perez. Ryan Hall's fighting again. Oh, that has totally flown under the radar for me. Hell yeah, dude. Ryan Hall is taking on Derek Minner. This is going to be good. I hope Ryan Hall submits him in like 5 seconds. And Randy Costa taking on Tony Kelly. Okay, cool. That is it. I'll be back next week. Talk about the UFC. I'll put back in a couple days. Talk about Cobra Kai. Back next week. Talk about the UFC. And break that one down. We might skip a week of Cobra Kai. Maybe 2 weeks of Cobra Kai. We'll talk about it on that one. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. What makes the most sense for the algorithm. Anyway, appreciate you guys. If you made it through here in my incessant ramblings, I appreciate you. I really do. Thank you so much. If you like and subscribe, please. If you made it this through, if you haven't, please, for the love of God, just do that. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody you meet, everybody you know. If they like MMA, I would appreciate it. You just throw my name out there, throw the podcast out there. Just get more ears, more eyeballs on us. It'd be much appreciated. All right. That is all. Be back in a couple days and then this weekend. Later, y'all.